The hearing will come to order. Today's hearing will examine the need for a fiscal or debt commission. We will hear from a panel of experts, including current and former colleagues that have been through these battles and have lived to talk about them. In fact, it's a little, it's extra special to have my mentor and friend Steve Womack, who I'm now literally serving as chairman in the shadow of this beautiful portrait behind us. And so it's an honor to have you back here in your chamber. Senator Rob Portman, Ambassador Portman, is from Ohio. We're delighted that you're here. And he was a member of the bipartisan bicameral super committee established as part of the Budget Control Act of 2011. He also served as director of OMB during the Bush administration, which is where I got to know him. And he has given a lot of thought to these issues over the years. Ambassador, thank you for your time, and we welcome you here. And what is he? And an alumni of the People's House. That's why we have you here, because we can actually, you're one senator we can trust. Well, we have two, actually. Chairman Kent Conrad, welcome. Our friend from North Dakota has also worked on budget issues for a long time, obviously, former chairman of the Senate Budget Committee from 2001 to 2003, 2007 to 13. He's one of the principal authors of legislation that served as a template for the creation of the Simpson-Bowles Commission. And he served on the Simpson-Bowles Commission and worked to advance their recommendations in the Senate. Chairman, we're delighted that you're here with us today. Again, Chairman Womack, my dear friend from Arkansas, it was because of him that I served on the Joint Select Committee on Budget and Appropriations Process Reform. He chaired that. He's a cardinal on the Appropriations Committee, and has served again as ranking member and chairman of the Budget Committee from 18 to 21. And last but not least, our friend and fearless leader, once upon a time here in the Budget Committee, Chairman Yarmouth from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, spent most of his time in Congress working on these very issues that we'll be discussing today. But he served as ranking member and chairman on this committee from 17 to 23, was also on that Joint Select Committee. And thank you for your service, Mr. Yarmouth. And I'm now going to yield myself such time as I may consume, and I'm going to try to consume just a brief period of time, because we're going to be pressed, I think, to leave here by noon for a vote on the floor. I'm going to speak just off the cuff here. We've had a lot of conversations on our side, Jimmy, over the last few weeks as it relates to the leadership of our conference. And I'm proud to say that we are wrestling with things of the greatest import, which have to do with our fiscal health and the deterioration thereof in this country, and the important and difficult things that we have to do to address it so we can right this ship, and so that we can ensure that our children are in good financial stead, and that they will not have to dig out of a hole of trillions upon trillions of debt. It's not right. It's immoral. And I don't think anybody on this committee, Democrat or Republican, thinks it's acceptable. We laid out the reverse the curse budget resolution. It's our job. I think one of the problems with this place is we don't do our job, and we don't do it very well. We don't do it on time. We don't take it seriously. We don't have the process that encourages or forces us to do this job, and so we just don't. We avoid these difficult conversations, and it's getting more difficult, so it's easier to avoid them. And by the way, both sides do it. We don't pay for things. We don't authorize before we fund things. And it's just a big ball of dysfunction. And it's no wonder that we are at a place where We are at a $2 trillion annual deficit clip that will double in 10 years. And we are at an almost $1 trillion in interest payment clip that will triple in 10 years. It's no wonder with the dysfunction and the mess of this process. Here's one thing that I believe. I can't speak for all my colleagues. But we have to address mandatory spending. And while we're obsessing over the 1/2 of 1/3 of 1 year's discretionary budget, and I don't want to dismiss the fact that we ought to get our fiscal house in order, and there's waste and unnecessary spending on the discretionary side, and we ought to get after it and be stewards of the taxpayers up here. So it's not to diminish the discretionary, but it's the mandatory spending and the entitlement programs that are really driving the debt, and that if we don't address them, will truly bankrupt this country. Now, here's the deal. If you look at it, the unfunded liability over the next liabilities over the next 30 years, about $120 trillion. 99% of the cost, the unfunded liability, are two programs: Social Security and Medicare. And Social Security and Medicare are critically important to our seniors. And in this budget window, they will be insolvent. And so we have to address the solvency, and we have to address the sustainability, not only for seniors today, but for the future. So it is my strong belief that the Republican Party unilaterally will not be able to solve those issues, nor will the Democrat Party in this chamber or in either chamber solve the issues of Social Security and Medicare. They've been too politicized and weaponized over the years. I think we need a debt commission of some sort, but we have to have a commission, a framework, a model that works. And the reason we have you here is to share with us your experience and your wisdom so that we can apply the necessary contours to whatever debt commission we can pass, so that in the ultimate analysis and outcome, we have a solution that we can hold hands together in a bipartisan way and not only move that issue forward, but move the country forward with some peace of mind and confidence that our country is on a better path. So that's the fundamental question as I see it. Good gentlemen, how do we do this, learning from all the different commissions, the one we served on, Steve, the 2011 Super Committee, the Simpson-Bowles, the Greenspan? How do we do this so that it works, not just for this institution, but most importantly for the American people? And with that, I yield to my ranking member for as much time as he may consume.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm just on a personal level very excited to welcome you back, Chairman Yarmuth. Chairman Yarmuth served as chairman of this committee and in Congress with great distinction, and also was just a wonderful friend and someone who really was a role model for me. And thank you, my friend. Would not be in this where I am, wherever that is. I would not be. I would not be here without you. So it's great to have you back. And to Steve, one of my really good friends on the other side of the aisle, it's also great to have you in this position as well. Your approach, let me just say this, and I hope I don't get you in trouble. The way you approach, you are one of the most well-respected members in the House. And that's on both sides. And at a time like this, we need it more than ever. So thank you for just being who you are and doing what you do. And to the two former senators, while I haven't had the opportunity to work with you before, you both enjoy great reputations, and I know that that was well earned. Really interested to hear from all four of you today in terms of what you thought worked well on the respective commissions on which you served, and then also ultimately what didn't work about them. I appreciate, and I know Jody, my chairman, is sincere in his belief that a commission is the answer. That is not my position. While I'm attempting to keep an open mind about it, I'm more than a little bit skeptical that a commission would work, just frankly, given the past history of the last dozen years. I also think that whether it's a commission or a straight-up vote in Congress, what we're really avoiding is the ultimate decision. That's the ball game. And not the process by which we get to resolve that ultimate question. We look whether you take the date the CBO uses or the date that the Social Security trustees use, either 2033 or 2034, we cross the Rubicon when it comes to Social Security and go over in terms of insolvency, fall below being able to pay 75% of benefits. And before that date, we reach it on at least one of the Medicare trust funds as well. So we have some time, but not a lot of time. Ultimately, though, that big question is going to be, do we raise revenues for Social Security and Medicare, or do we cut benefits? I come down very clearly on the side of raising revenues. I don't make a secret about that. And I practice what I preach. I am the author on the House side with Sheldon Whitehouse on the Senate side of a bill that would raise enough revenues to Social Security, and the Joint Committee on Taxation has verified this, that would extend the life of the trust fund through the year 2100. And I want to share just some data, remarkable poll data that came back. This is from Navigator, June of 2023. This poll asked the American people, or those polled, which approach do you prefer? Raising taxes on rich and large corporations, including closing tax loopholes, and using that extra money to pay our bills, or cutting programs like Social Security and Medicare and using that money to pay our bills? The results were 82% to 7. I have never seen polling results like that. 82% opting for raising taxes on rich and large corporations, 7% cutting programs like Social Security and Medicare. So whether we talk about a commission or not a commission, ultimately we know that there's a choice that's going to have to be made. And in the end of the day, it's going to be members of Congress, elected officials who will be voting on what that plan looks like. I will say on the positive about a commission, the 2018 commission on which you served, Mr. Chair, and on which you served, Chairman Yarmuth, there were some specific, and we've already launched a bipartisan look at budget reforms that could happen that would improve the process. Some of these passed out of a Senate committee, didn't ultimately become law. I'm really interested in following up on the work that you guys did, because I think there are some things there that we could turn into law and make permanently part of the process. So I'm especially interested in hearing about 2018. It wasn't so much a debt commission per se, it was more about budget process. And I think we have a real opportunity in this Congress, and we've talked about this before, to make that law, and we have support from at least 3/4 of the respective chairs and ranking members. But with that, welcome and welcome back, and I yield to the chair.
Thank my friend and ranking member, and I agree. Ultimately, we have to have the political courage to act, and that decision and responsibility is ours. I would hope a commission would foster some serious conversation and try to depoliticize that conversation, because we have to have it. Once again, in the interest of time, if any other member or organization has a written statement for the record, I'll hold the record open till the end of the day to accommodate those who may not have had a chance to prepare their statements. Once again, I'd like to also welcome our distinguished panel, and at this time, we'd like to yield 5 minutes to Senator Portman.
Great. Thank you, Chairman Arrington and Ranking Member Boyle. Thanks for your thoughtful comments, both of you. And Chairman, you laid out the challenge very well, off the cuff. I appreciate your knowledge and commitment to this. Also appreciate you inviting Senator Conrad and me here. The last time I was in a hearing room with him, he was chairing it on the Senate Budget Committee. and I was on this side of the table, and he was tough. So I'm really glad to have him on this side of the table today. As you noted, I spent a lot of part of my career working on these budget issues. I was a member of the Ways and Means Committee, but also a member of this committee, the Budget Committee, and the Budget Committee on the Senate side, and the Finance Committee, Joint Economic Committee. And yes, I was a member of the so-called super committee. It wasn't so super being on that committee, but we tried. But in these roles, I've had an opportunity to see something, and that is the flaws of the current budget and appropriations process, and the rules by which we live, which both of you talked about, and the inability for Congress to address the impending fiscal crisis. Between my service between the House and Senate, I did serve as Director of the Office of Management and Budget, where I got to see the same thing on the administration side. I mean, there are a lot of tough issues there as well, and an inability to address the fiscal crisis from an executive branch perspective. Why? These are tough issues, a lot of political landmines. And my experience has led me to the conclusion that it's time to try something different. Time to try something that gives Congress and the American people a better tool to be able to, one, understand what's going on and have some trust in that, but also provide a balanced, bipartisan way forward. That's why I believe a commission with membership from members of Congress as well as outside experts is necessary and timely right now. I want to commend the members of this committee. I've looked at all your backgrounds. All of you have tackled this issue in one way or another. Everybody, it seems, on this committee just about has offered legislation with creative solutions to the crisis. Ranking member talked about some, as did the chairman. And a number of you on a bipartisan basis introduced legislation establishing a fiscal commission. Chairman Arrington included a fiscal commission in his recent budget resolution, which I appreciated. But Representatives Uzenga and Peters co-chair the Bipartisan Fiscal Forum and have introduced the Fiscal Commission Act, which was included in Speaker McCarthy's most recent continuing resolution. Didn't pass, but it got a vote. That FCA is also co-sponsored by Representatives Moore and Panetta. And I apologize if I've missed others in the committee who have also been similarly engaged. But this morning, we're going to hear from your former chair, Chairman Womack, who's going to have his own commission proposal. So I'm encouraged by all that, and I want to thank the members of this committee for taking the lead on that. You're well aware of the economic challenges and fiscal challenges that we face. I won't go into detail, but $33 trillion begins to add up to a huge issue, a tremendous and immoral burden on future generations. It does diminish our standing in the world. I've certainly seen that as I've traveled and talked to people. And of course, it negatively impacts our economy. It's no coincidence that we have had this debt and deficit grow and then be followed by a period of high inflation. We can talk about that later, but there's no question that that affects particularly long-term rates, and our constituents are all suffering from that right now. A properly structured bipartisan fiscal commission can build trust, expand knowledge, and yes, provide a little political cover to members of Congress who want to do the right thing. This is going to require establishing a fiscal metric, which won't be easy. You know, what's our goal? It's also going to require making some tough choices, including conducting a top-to-bottom review of all federal government spending, asking hard questions about the federal role, rooting out parochial spending that doesn't help the national interest, finding new revenue in a way that minimizes economic growth and opportunity impacts, reform, of course, of the critically important but currently unsustainable entitlement programs, as was talked about. And Chairman, you had it just right. We've got to save these programs, in essence. If we don't, as the ranking member said, Social Security benefits are going to be cut substantially as soon as 2033 or 2034. And of course, in general, entitlements will bankrupt the country. We all know that. In terms of budget reform, I think it'd be great if the commission also took a crack at that. And I think all of you would agree that's needed. This is all necessary, but I think the first step of any commission is to really just tell the American people the truth about what's going on. They know that something's not right. They know the current trajectory is unsustainable, but they're looking for an honest assessment and an honest dialogue about the way forward, not a partisan one, but one that is right down the middle. I think that is maybe the most important part of the commission. There are a lot of valid structures for a commission. Some of you, again, have your own proposals, and I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but I do think having members of Congress and some external folks involved who are real experts is important. I think to reduce some of the politics, the commission should report during the likely lame duck session of Congress after the 2024 elections. That's assuming this commission can get up and going soon, because I think it's going to take that much time to do it right. The question was, you know, what's worked and what hasn't worked. I think the law establishing the commission should create fast-track consideration culminating with a vote without amendment for a solution approved by a qualified majority, whatever that is, of the membership. I think that's the important thing of doing a statutory commission as opposed to others that have been tried, like Simpson-Bowles. What's worked, what hasn't worked? BRAC has worked. This base realignment and closure process. There have been 5 BRAC rounds, as some of you know. Estimated each round created an average of $12 billion in savings. That was tough going, but it did work in that sense. Another model would be the 81 Greenspan Commission. This is a bipartisan group of experts and members of Congress, respective members of Congress. Saved the federal government over $165 billion in the first 7 years, extended the life of Social Security by 30 years. That's not bad. They said it was going to extend it for longer than that, but 30 years is not bad. On Simpson-Bowles, we just mentioned that. Their comprehensive package of reforms, as you know, was not passed in the Congress, but it was a success in a way because many of its proposals did become law. The Center for a Responsible Federal Budget has estimated that by 2015, Congress had enacted around 60% of those reductions in spending, those reforms that were proposed. So it did make a difference, and Senator Conrad can talk more about that. We can learn from its failures, too, what didn't work. It was established by executive order and without congressional approval, so there was no forcing mechanism to ensure a vote would occur. Also, the commission said you had to get 15 of 18 members to agree. That was the majority. That's just too high.